Hey, what's up? It's Comic95 the Savior. For this video, I'm going to give you guys the pros and cons of staying at a share house. I want to start off by saying that I have personally stayed at a share house for over a year. I have both visited multiple share houses as well as lived at a couple of different ones. I'm going to try to give you an unbiased opinion, giving you both the pros and cons, but I will also be making a blog post very soon that will give a more biased perspective and tell you what my experience was like there. If I can find the time to, I would also like to upload a video telling you about the good and bad things that happened. So, yeah, I want to also clarify for you guys so you're not getting confused. In my previous videos and blog posts, I am not telling you that share houses are bad or that gaijin apartments are bad per se, but my point is that they are overpriced and you are not going to get great customer service for the most part. Their goal is to make profit, so if they're constantly having to repair stuff or send people out to the house to solve problems that you have between other tenants, this is costing them time and money that they don't want to use and or spend. Additionally, I think share houses are great for short term, just not for long-term stays. Of course, if you cannot work in Japan, you don't have a degree, you don't have a student visa for, the long run, obviously you are limited to pretty much just staying at a gaijin apartment or a gaijin share house. So this is not to knock that. There are good places that are made for foreigners, but there are also tons of bad ones. The overall thing they all have in common is that they cost too much. The biggest and most obvious pro to staying at a share house over a different type of apartment or a normal Japanese apartment is that they cost significantly less. So up front, you generally only have to pay no more than about $1,000 US. I'm going to do everything in USD. Generally, no more than $1,000 US are going to be needed in order to move in. So that is the biggest and most obvious pro. You don't have to save up forever. You can easily, get together a month's rent basically to move into your place. The second pro is not only do you not need a lot of money up front, but you don't need a lot of documentation. In order to get a normal Japanese apartment, you normally need a contract that shows that you have a stabilized job that is going to give you enough pay to afford your rent, as well as any documentation proving that you have X amount of dollars within your bank account. You will not have to do any of this in order to stay at a share house. All you have to have is a valid visa and passport. You also will have a very great and convenient location. Most share houses are generally located either very close to or right in the center of whatever downtown area happens to be in your city. So for example, in Tokyo, normally share houses are located in Shinjuku or Shibuya, obviously the main areas that tourists go to and that people study and work in. So this is extremely convenient and will save you money on transportation. When I was personally staying at a share house, Sakura House to be exact, I was walking distance from Yoyogi Park. I could walk to my school in Shinjuku. If I wanted to take the train, I was just a couple of train stops away. Ikebukuro, a few train stops away. Akihabara, a few train stops away. I had multiple train stations to choose from that I could walk to. You were super conveniently located. In the area that I was in, Sendagaya, it's actually a very expensive, uppity neighborhood. The housing there is really expensive, and the neighbors have really nice cars, and it's very high class. This neighborhood was so nice and expensive. Whenever I would tell Japanese people that this is where I was staying at, they'd be like, like Sendagaya? They would be like that, like super shocked by it. And I would be like, yeah. And they didn't understand that I was living inside of a rundown share house, that I was inside of a little bunk bed in a dormitory. They were thinking that I had serious money, like, whoa, like you live in Sendagaya? And even when I was apartment hunting, they would be so surprised. They were like, oh, like you must have money. And it's like, not really. My rent was just less than $500. I was paying about $450 at first. I had a special promotion price, and it went up to, I think, being $490 by the time I left there. So it's a really nice neighborhood, and it's not just Sakura House, but most share houses. You're generally in a very nice area, very nice neighborhood. So this is something that you normally can't afford on your own, and it will also save you money long term. You don't have to spend as much on transportation, and you don't have to waste as much time getting to and from where you want to go. Another thing that people don't normally think too much about is by staying at a share house, you also get to make friends right away. you'll be, immersed in an environment in which you kind of want to know who your roommates are. Even if you have a private room inside the house, these people can potentially have access to your things, and foreigners tend to generally be more friendly than Japanese people. Not necessarily nicer, but friendlier, key word. And what I mean by that is, when you're staying at these places, generally people will quickly realize, oh, we have a newbie. They'll talk to you, invite you to go out to parties and dinners with them, clubbing, just sit down and play games with you, in the common area, etc. So by staying at a share house, you will quickly make friends who can also show you the ropes. When I personally first came at one, my roommates quickly showed me how to get an IC card, how to update my address on my residence card. They took me out. I had 2 free meals for my birthday. I was broke when I came here. So it's really nice to have friends, and staying at a share house will help you do that very fast. This can obviously be extremely helpful if you are someone who's shy, anxious, you don't speak Japanese well, or even if you don't speak English, which I'm not sure how you would have found my video, but you get what I'm saying. I won't say a lot, but there were some Europeans that would stay at the share house that didn't speak English, but the girls there were so nice that we would invite them and hang out with them. I actually befriended this girl who was French. She spoke almost perfect Japanese, like she sounded like a Japanese girl, but her English was really bad, so she just spoke French and Japanese. But everyone was so nice and welcoming to her, and she didn't feel left out, at least I don't think, or singled out. I hung out with her several times. We still stay in contact a little bit, but we can only communicate in Japanese because she can't really speak English, and I obviously do not know French. So again, it's a really great way to make friends. You would not get this at a normal Japanese apartment. Your neighbors will almost never speak to you, if ever at all. It's a very odd thing to do. Your neighbors don't even normally say good morning to you. You have nice people that do if they run into you by accident, like they don't want to seem rude, but it's just not the norm. The next pro to staying at a share house is that there's no investment. So when you choose to rent in a share house, your contract is generally month to month, and at the most maybe 6 months. These contracts can easily be broken, and you simply just let them know that you're ready to move out. You give them notice, and normally any deposit that you gave them will also be refunded upon leaving. You don't have to do a really big clean out or anything like that. You don't have to worry about repairs or anything else. So again, kind of long term in a way, you don't have to worry about these problems that you will have to worry about if you are staying at an apartment. There's going to be more cost to clean your place. Generally, you have to pay like a cleaning fee, etc. when you are leaving from a Japanese apartment. Although some Japanese apartments actually charge you the cleaning fee up front when you first move in so that there's no problems in the future. So yeah. You can easily, leave whenever you want to. If you don't like the place, you did not make any type of investment, you can pack up your bags and just go. Another big pro that again is arguably one of the bigger ones is the fact that you get a trial run at having a Japanese home. So if you have not ever been to Japan before, or if you've never had your own place, you have no idea just how different Japanese homes are. Even watching the YouTube videos that I saw before I came here, they were not enough. You really have to experience living here yourself. So by staying at a share house, you get a trial run of what it's like, how you pick up mail, how do you get packages if you miss them when they didn't show up. You learn how to clean out your sink. They have a whole totally different way of disposing of, their garbage that falls into the sink, etc. Toilets here are so different. The way that you take out the trash, how you separate your trash. These are all things that share houses will not only help you with, but they will literally hold your hand and walk you step by step with them. So again, you have like a trial run where you don't have to worry about damaging your own stuff or, getting a ticket at your own place. You can figure everything out while staying at a share house without having to waste your own stuff. Another pro to staying at a share house that people don't think of is you have help in emergency situations. So whenever there is going to be a tsunami, or if there's going to be, not a hurricane, is tsunami the right word? I'll put it inside the video. But whenever there's any type of natural disaster or a big storm or it's going to snow or anything like that, you'll receive an email from your share house giving you information as to how to deal with these natural disasters or bad weather, etc. You will also have help. You'll have people inside your share house that, can speak Japanese or English if you don't speak English, that can help you get through this stuff. Versus if you're on your own, you'll just be freaking out wondering what to do. Your apartment agency is not going to contact you and help you out. You're going to kind of be on your own and stuck between yourself watching, the gaijin news on Facebook and watching the Japanese news on TV and hoping you could piece together what's really going on. So it's really great to have support and help here during a natural disaster. Tsunamis and earthquakes. I said I forgot. Earthquakes happen here all the time, and you will look really stupid and be really embarrassed if every time an earthquake happened you freaked out and ran outside and were screaming and looking for help, because nobody really does that here, even when there's big ones. They're just a very common thing to happen here. Japan doesn't really take earthquakes seriously unless they, reach like the 5.0 scale and up. I really even say 6. I've experienced a lot of 4 point whatever earthquakes here, and to be honest, you get used to them and they're not really scary, despite what a lot of people might say and or think. Also keep in mind that they're hurricanes, tsunamis, whatever word you want to use. They're not as strong as the ones that we have like in America, like in Florida, etc. They're more like a tropical storm almost, so it's extremely windy and sometimes comes with a lot of rain, but it's not like Hurricane Katrina style. That does not happen here, so there's no need to worry. But again, if you're new to Japan, you're living by yourself, it's really nice to have the support of other foreigners and of course the housing agency too. Another pro is if you are lazy, you don't want to have to monitor how much water or electricity you're using, or you want to waste as much as possible. You're like, oh, screw the world, I don't care about conservation, I don't believe in global warming. Well, you don't have to worry about paying individual bills. Normally at most share houses, you generally pay a set amount each month for your rent, which also includes all of your utilities. So you won't have to go and make deposits at a bank or have automatic withdrawal taking out for your bills, and you won't have to go to the convenience store to pay your bills. As I've said before, you don't have to know how to speak Japanese to do these things yourself, but again, if you're someone who is lazy or you're scared to do this share house will handle all of this stuff for you. You don't have to think about the cost of each individual bill. It is all handled for you in your monthly rent. They simply take the money that you gave them, and they will use that to cover all of your bills. I kind of already said this earlier, but also keep in mind that share houses are generally walking distance, like very close from train stations, which you might not really think much of this, but most people in Japan do not live 3 or 5 minutes away from their closest station. Generally, people's train stations are anywhere from about 15 to as much as 30 minutes away walking. A lot of people actually ride their bikes to the train station and then get on the train to go to work or school. But for you, most share houses are generally, a very short walk. So you're normally like a block or two away from your train station, which is great. And you will seriously not realize what you have until it's gone. Ever since I left Sakura House, I've never lived that close to a train station ever again. Even my current place, I'm actually about a 5-minute walk away, but at Sakura House, I was literally 3 minutes away, and the train station was super, super close, super convenient. It was great. Another pro of staying at a share house is that there's generally a lot of shopping areas walking distance from your home. So normally you're located close to a mall, multiple grocery stores, as well as generally at least one that's a discount grocery store, lots of convenience stores, so you can choose between Family Mart, Lawson, Mini Mart, I forgot the name, and Family Mart. So that's really great and convenient. And once again, not all share houses are like this, but most of them do. Also keep in mind, while we're on the topic of shopping, generally because they are so used to foreigners being here thanks to your share house, they generally have English speaking staff, or the staff is familiar with dealing with foreigners, so they know some basic English to help you out if you have problems or if you want to ask where something is. And they're generally a lot nicer and more kind and polite. If you live in an area that's not used to foreigners, the staff can be a little bit funky with you, but you have to be a seasoned foreigner to kind of get this. Otherwise you think that they're just being quiet. Another pro to staying at a share house is also that you normally get some type of free supply. So generally share houses will provide you with, free towels and sponges and dishes and things like that to help you get started. But they also don't just give you free, supplies, but free furnishing. You won't have to worry about buying yourself a bed or a futon or blankets and things like that. You'll already have a TV, an ironing board, things, basic things that you need. So you won't have to go on a quick shopping spree as soon as you get to Japan. If you are getting an apartment here, it is very unlikely, if it's a real Japanese apartment, that it will be furnished. So you would obviously be sleeping on the floor until you can go out to the store and go buy yourself a bed and get yourself all of these different things, even a stove. And while this might sound okay to you, that's a lot of pressure and a lot of work for someone who's new to Japan that doesn't speak Japanese and doesn't even know where to buy these things from. You do not want to have to spend your first day rushing around trying to find and buy all of the stuff. As I've kind of touched on this topic earlier, share houses also generally put together programs or events for their tenants to join. And you don't have to be a tenant to go to these, but obviously if you live there, you will generally get more of a discount, or you will at least know about it before it becomes booked. So they will have like meetups or events where they'll go to a museum together with a large group of foreigners. This is a great way to meet people, make friends, or even if you're just visiting here for the fun of it, you will be able to meet new people and be around other people, so you're not by yourself, you're traveling alone. So again, if you're worried about making friends or you're feeling shy or anxious, obviously by being at a share house, you will also have opportunities to join different social clubs and groups, whether it's a cooking class or everyone going to the beach together or the museum or going to play dodgeball, whatever the case is. It's nice that you have a way to quickly and easily make friends, not just with anyone, but with people that you live with. Another pro to staying at a share house is that you generally have free Wi-Fi and free cable. So if you're coming to Japan without a cell phone like I did, or you really want cable for whatever reason, which is not a need here because general television is free in Japan, again, you can connect all your devices and you'll have high-speed internet at most share houses. You can also use this to play video games online with your friends. So I found all of this stuff to be really helpful, and again, the connection speed is generally really good. It's good enough where you can quickly download videos and music, as well as play online. I used to play Resident Evil with my brother when I lived at a share house in Tokyo. Now I've been so busy with work and now trying to make these videos that I don't have time. But again, that's something nice. You don't have to worry about an internet bill. You don't have to pay for cable, etc. It all comes free with your rent at the share house. The very last pro that I will give you guys on staying at a share house is that depending on where the location is, staying at a share house can actually save you a lot of money. It can be cheaper. So for example, if you're living in a very busy downtown area such as Shibuya, you can generally rent a place there for about anywhere between $450 to about $650 US, which obviously if you were to get a Japanese apartment on your own, your rent would be starting at about $700 or $800 USD. Do keep in mind though, this is more of a con though. In the long run, you are actually paying a lot more though for a smaller space. So for example, my place was $490, but all I had was a bunk bed. If I could afford $200 more, I would have an entire apartment with my own private everything, private shower, private kitchen, etc. So again, pick your poison. Privacy versus cost versus space. There's a lot to factor in. So those are the pros for staying at a share house. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, I want to balance this video by also giving you cons. As always, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I am not a god or something. I can only tell you from my own personal experience, but my goal in this video is to make it unbiased. So I will not go into detail about what I've personally experienced per se so much. I will simply explain things that can happen and are things that can make your experience bad. So once again, share houses are not bad, gaijin houses are not bad, but there are better options, especially if you plan to be in Japan long term. If you're here short term, you can't really, beggars can't be choosers. There's limited housing for you to get, and as you probably already know, it is 150% legal for Japanese people to discriminate housing. They can choose not to rent to you just because of your race, because of your religion, country of origin, sexuality. It's all 100% legal here in Japan. For me, or what I would say for anyone, the biggest con that you will find with share houses is that there is no help if something goes wrong. So this goes for several different things, but the big two that I really want to talk about without going into much detail, if you have any type of altercation or problem with tenants, they're more concerned about keeping their money than correcting things that went wrong. I personally saw other tenants have issues with foreigners that said and did racist things to them. I would not give the girl's name, but there was a woman who I was not friends with who was Chinese, and her European roommate apparently would come home drunk. I saw this with my own eyes and I recorded it, but I'm not going to upload it because I realized it was wrong. Long story short, she was saying, really racist stuff to her about her being Chinese and that she didn't want to hear her talking and that just being really ignorant. She was drunk though, and the share house did nothing about this. They didn't care. They wanted to keep her as a tenant. They wanted their money. So yeah, even although she contacted the share house and they sent someone out to play investigator, they ultimately let the girl stay, just gave her a warning, and of course it continued. I did not see the end result because I personally ended up leaving the place, but that is just one example of an altercation. It is very common for people to have food that is stolen out of the fridge, which that's normally something in the common area. Personal items that are left down, shoes get stolen. Again, plates, dishes, and stuff like that. People use your laundry detergent. Actually, my bra was stolen. Somebody stole my bra. I don't understand why. It was a nice bra, but it's like, okay, that's a little bit creepy. And it was even more weird because I stayed inside of a all-girls dormitory. So it's like, why would another girl... Okay, not gonna go into that. Anyway, my point is, if your stuff comes up missing, if you have an altercation with someone, they will not help you. Also, more importantly, if there is damage to the place, if something needs to be repaired or fixed, they will drag their feet to do so. They do not care. Their goal is just, to get as many people in as possible so that the house is full and they can make as much money and rent as possible. They don't care about personal problems. So when something goes down, you're pretty much on your own. And they will even tell you. They told me several times when I contacted them over problems that, hey, this isn't a hotel and that we need to talk amongst ourselves and fix the problems. And so it's like, well, actually it kind of is like a hotel, but okay. And again, we're adults. I can't tell another adult what to do. I can ask them not to do something, but I can't really make or threaten them, and tell them, hey, if you do this again, I'm going to beat your ass. So, you're limited what you can say and do. So this was a huge con to me. And I also didn't like the fact that stuff did not get, replaced often. So when things got broken, we just couldn't use them anymore. The iron is broke, the pan is broken, the TV stops working. Oh well, too bad. That's just life. So beyond just repairs and whatnot, as I've already said several times, the cost. You are generally paying either more or the exact same amount to rent an entire apartment, to have a small itty-bitty room, or just a bunk bed with zero privacy. So again, consider that. You're paying a lot more money in the long run. And it really goes beyond just, the space that you have. But also keep in mind that for the amount that you're paying, your bills don't really cost that much. So for example, some places actually break down what you're paying for, and they might say that you're paying $100 per month for your utilities. Well, normally in Japan, your utilities should not be costing you $100 per month. This is their way of ensuring that if you do go crazy, you're not conservative, and you just use as much water or as much electricity as possible, that they will still be able to cover the cost of these things. So you're paying more money in the long run by renting at a share house. I want to tell you guys this while it's still on my mind, a very huge thing that people do not consider. The more time that you're staying at a share house, the less time that you will have to rent an actual apartment. And the reason being is, especially if you're just here for college and you plan to go back home, as your visa gets closer to its expiration date, you will have less of an ability to get your own Wi-Fi, or in the case of this video, to get your own Japanese apartment. Normally, contracts here in Japan are for 2 years. Not 1 year, but 2 years. So if you are not trying to get an apartment right away, you are going to be cutting, a good portion of potential apartments out of, the competition, because now you don't have a visa that's valid for the 2 years that you need in order to rent this apartment. And same thing goes for 1 year. So after you've been at a share house for 1 year, now you probably only have 1 year left. So you need to quickly try to find an apartment while your visa is still valid. Otherwise, you will be stuck at a share house forever. Another con is that share houses are generally loud. This is actually a really big reason why most Japanese people cannot stand foreigners and do not like to live next to them and will not rent to them. Share houses generally are known to have parties, to have girls and guys running in and out of the house, both Japanese and foreigners alike. People are not very respectful of you as a roommate. People will normally leave the lights on. Your next door, roommate might be playing loud music at night. People might get the bright idea to, start the dryer and use the washer at midnight when you have a big test the next day. You might be okay with these parties and not really care so much at first, but eventually this will drive you crazy when your roommate has the lights on at 2 a.m. and you have to wake up in a few hours for your finals. Or when you're trying to go to sleep and you're on your period and you have a headache and your next door neighbor is blasting rock music, even although, it's late at night. So things like this are really annoying. The next con for staying at a share house is share houses are generally dirty. So they're not just loud, but they're generally dirty. A lot of the people that stay at a share house do not clean up behind themselves, and they normally don't do it properly. Again, this is another big reason why Japanese people do not like to rent to foreigners, because they stereotypically do not separate their trash properly. and a lot of the time, I can't say whether they do it more than Japanese people, I have yet to stay at a share house that did not have a bug problem. Once again, going back into the same thing, people do not dispose of their trash properly. They do not, bag stuff up the way they're supposed to, and they also do not separate their garbage and throw it away when it should be thrown out. This causes problems within the house and outside, as the dumpster dudes hate us. And inside your home, this is annoying because you have dirty dishes in the sink, people putting their feet on the kitchen table, belching and farting at the table, people who don't wash their hands. It's just really nasty. A lot of the people there also do not respect the property. So I remember, I want to say it was for the gay parade, there was a whole bunch of girls there, foreign women, and they got the bright idea, like, hey, let's all dye our hair for the parade. There was literally permanent dye stuck. It was temporary dye, but like it wasn't washing off. I assume it was temporary. There was permanent blue and pink hair dye all over the showers, all over the sinks that we do our makeup at, etc. Even on the mirror. So at least, the stuff in the mirror we were able to clean off, obviously, but it didn't come off of the sink. It didn't come off of the back wall. It was stuck on the showers, and they literally just posted up a sign saying, sorry, we'll try to clean it later, whatever. And of course it didn't work, so they thought it was funny. They were just laughing about it, and it ultimately never got cleaned. So it's like, okay, if it isn't bad enough, we're staying inside of a dirty, roach infested place, now we have more problems to deal with. Now everything isn't even visually appealing. So again, if you're not a party animal, you care about peace and quiet, this type of stuff will drive you crazy. Another con is people don't normally follow the rules. So we were told not to do laundry after midnight because our neighbors had complained, and for us to not congregate outside and talk loudly. Sure enough, the police would constantly get called on the share house, and they came to the place several times telling us, that we were disturbing the peace, and that they had gotten multiple phone calls in just one night, and people would still go back out and do the same thing hours later or the next day. People would use the washer and dryer, which the washer had a really weird problem. It would screech for some reason, really, really loud, like it sounded like a little girl screaming, and so I'm sure this probably scared people, made them dial 911. The share house asked us to not use this after hours, and people would do it anyway. Another big thing, smoking. Smoking is pretty much allowed in a lot of different places in Japan that are now illegal in America, such as restaurants. Yet for some dumb reason, people will still break that rule and smoke inside the house anyway. I personally cannot stand the smell of cigarette smoke. I dated a chain smoker who would literally go through 2 packs a day, and I hated every bit of it, and I'm so grateful that we're not dating anymore. My stuff and my hair would stay smelling like cigarette smoke. And of course, it's bad for me too, like you're getting secondhand smoke from that. So, and then you have to work. It just looks really, really bad, especially being on a crowded train in Tokyo. Another con that people don't think about is when you have roommates, or even if you're at a shared house, you generally do not have any control over the AC, so the heat or the cool air. Your roommates generally will not feel the same way that you do, so you will have to compromise. So for example, if one girl wants to have the air on, another one wants it off, you guys are going to have to work that out because your share house is not going to want to be involved in that whatsoever. There is no such thing as central heating in Japan for the most part, so you generally have this little flimsy AC that actually kind of does a pretty okay job, which blows air directly from outside. It uses up a lot of electricity, as people say, but as I've said before, my electric bill is generally about $5, and if I leave it on all day, the highest bill I've had was $57, so it's really even less than that. But yeah, you're gonna have to work something out with them, and your share house is probably not going to help you. A lot of the people here are really big on fresh air, which isn't a bad thing, but since Japan has so many bugs, this is problematic if you're like me and you're afraid of bugs. Your roommates are gonna want to leave the door wide open, which will let in spiders and roaches and all kind of stuff, which will give you bug problems, but sure will give you fresh air, and they generally will not want to have the heat on overnight. So if you have the heat on, you can go to sleep with clothes on and wake up with a cold, which I did several times. I actually got strep throat in Japan while staying at a share house, which I was not happy about. Another con to being at a share house is obviously the lack of privacy. So beyond just having roommates that can turn on lights, etc., you can't really do things that you want to do. So for example, if you like to walk around the house half naked, it's kind of creepy if you do that. There were girls at the house that would do that, and I personally thought that was kind of strange. Like, nobody wants to see you in your panties and bra at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And not just that, but the people from the share house. So the maid service, workers at the share house will literally just barge in without any warning. They'll sometimes knock, but we literally had a guy, he was one of the workers at the share house. He came to our place literally like 10 p.m. at night, I'm not kidding, to ask us about things that we wanted to change about the share house and get our 2 cents on it. I don't even think the share house sent him out. I think he was just doing this for the fun of it and trying to investigate on his own. But it's like, why would you come over without sending us an email? This is an all-girls dormitory. Some of us weren't even dressed. You know, it's just weird. Also, if you have any type of class or respect for the people around you, you cannot take home your one-night stands or your boyfriend or girlfriend. They are generally not allowed at the share house to spend the night or anything like that. Some places don't even allow outside people to visit the house whatsoever. You should always be mindful and respectful of the people that you are sharing a place with, especially if you're in an all-girls dormitory, which this was personally a problem for us in our dorm. A lot of the girls would stay there because for God knows what reason, but then they would want to bring home one-night stands. And it's like, I do not want to be sleeping in my bunk bed, wearing my pajamas, wake up in the middle of the night with your boyfriend cheesing at me. Like, that's strange. I don't know what happened. I don't want anything to happen to me. And so I personally never said anything, but one of my roommates, she was not having it. She was from Romania, and she gave that girl a talk, and she told Soccer House, and, you know, they tried to nip it in the bud. But of course, there's only so much that other people can do. You know, we're all adults here. And also, don't think that you're getting away with this if you have a private room. It's the same difference. Trust me. I would know from personal experience because I've seen and heard it all. If your roommate, you know, might have their own separate room, they might be, you know, there's normally dormitories and private rooms. So you can choose if you want your own private room or if you want to share a room with multiple people and save a little bit more money. You can still hear people getting their giggity in the room next door, and nobody wants to see or hear that stuff. So again, there's no privacy. You can't really act like an adult because you don't have an adult apartment. So yeah, these are the cons to staying at a share house. I'm probably missing something. You can probably, you know, fill in more if you've been to a share house. You can add more in the comments. Again, there's pros and cons to both. I still would recommend staying at a share house when you first come to Japan, at least for half a year, if not an entire year like how I did. They're not all bad, but they're also not all good. I'm sorry, you guys, I actually have one more con that I need to add to this. The very final last con is that when you rent at a share house, you're really taking a gamble. Lots of share houses pop up every single year, and they also close down. I personally stayed at a share house that closed abruptly. If you want the story on this, I shared it on my Instagram account. So if you follow me on Instagram, you probably already saw this there. But that can be a very scary thing. And had I not had a place backed up and just so happened to have already been on my way out the door, I would have probably been homeless and lost a lot of my stuff because I had way too much stuff to just take and stay at a hotel with. I needed to obviously have somewhere to actually store these things. So again, a con for staying at a share house is, you know, it's a business. It can open and close just as fast as it opened. So you really want to be careful where you rent from. This is a problem that you won't generally have to worry about with an apartment because share houses rely on having enough tenants to make up the rent for the entire place. So to kind of summarize and recap this video in a nutshell, the biggest pro of staying at a share house is the fact that there's low costs up front. You don't need to have a lot of documentation to prove that you can rent the place. And the location, very convenient, you know, close to shopping, the train station, and tourist areas. Also a very quick and easy way to make friends. The cons are when there are problems with your roommates or when there's repairs that are needed and damage that has been done, you will not have help from neither your roommates or the actual agency itself. They will do very little, if anything at all. They will generally tell you to try to work it out with your roommates, and they will not really get involved and or intervene. So those are the pros and cons to staying at a share house. I hope you found this video helpful. Again, experience it for yourself. Everyone's experience is different. Every house is different. I personally would do it all over again because to me there were more pros than there are cons to staying at a share house. So again, as always, as I said at the beginning, use common sense. If you're in Japan short term, obviously, you are limited with where you can choose to stay and or rent from, so you will have to use a share house or a share apartment, whatever type of place, a dormitory, your options are limited. It's not the worst thing in the world, and you can always ask to move to another, dorm or move to another house. You still have options. Each house is different, roommates at each place is different. Do not just go based off of my own experience or even my own opinion on where you should stay. Try things out for yourself. It's one thing to get informed, from other people. It's another thing to let them decide for you. Do not let me choose everything for you. You have to go out and make your own experiences yourself. I'm simply warning you that there are some serious cons, just as there are some really big and good pros to staying at a share house. Keep in mind that the longer you stay at a share house, just like the longer you stay in Japan, the more problems you will notice and see. For example, my experience staying at a share house was perfect until I had been here for, I want to say 2 months or 3 months. Then things started to go downhill from there. It did not start off bad. At first, everything seemed perfect. It was all cupcakes and rainbows. The people there were clean. I didn't mind cleaning up behind people that made little messes. And eventually, you get overwhelmed. It becomes stressful. You will get tired of it after so long. And besides, if you're going to be in Japan, you should experience what it's like to really live here. And staying at a share house will not allow you to truly experience that, because you will always be babied and sheltered as a foreigner. They will constantly have things that you can't do and won't have access to, simply because you are not Japanese. I actually have a couple of blog posts that talk about my stay at Sakura House that will give you some information as far as what my personal experience was, both the good and the bad, as well as, an unbiased perspective per se on that. I plan to do more writings on staying, the topic of being at a share house. So if you are interested in this topic or these things, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any specific questions, you can leave them in the comments below or send me an email directly, and I would be more than happy to help you and answer your questions. So that is that. Thank you so much for watching. Please follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and I hope you will watch another video.